social studies. So, let's start with the first chapter, known as our Earth. So, what do you understand by Earth? Earth is the only planet on which living beings can survive. Who are these living beings? Living beings are those beings who can actually breathe. These includes animals, plants, microorganisms, and most importantly, human beings. So, why are human beings so important? This is because we have been using the resources that the earth gives us, which in abundance, that is in big amount. We actually make use of these resources, and then sometimes we comes into a fight with these plants and animals when we take their resources also for our personal use. So, let's move on how do we take these resources and make them use for our own personal use. So, do you see this picture right here? Do you see these big buildings and offices? So, these big buildings and offices are made on a land. What are these lands? So, these lands were earlier used as agriculture, or these lands were used as grazing field for animals. What do you understand by grazing fields for animals? Grazing field for animals means that the animals came onto these lands to eat their food. But later, the human beings decided to take over these lands and make them into big buildings for their own personal use. This not only took the rights of the other living beings but also reduced the quality of land, which means the groundwater which was available, that was also reduced completely, and the land which was used for agriculture was also removed and reduced. So, not only we are reducing the capabilities of these living beings, but we are also reducing the quality of the earth. Yes, we generally make use of the earth for our own personal use, but we forget that the quality of the earth is also reducing day by day. But we do not understand this because we want our luxury always. This can lead to environmental crisis. Now let's go deep into environmental crisis and understand what actually environmental crisis means. So, in simple language and simple words, environmental crisis is where human beings make use of the resources for their own time being and for their own purposes and for their own personal use, which sometimes reduces the quality and the resources available to us. We know that there are two types of resources: renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are some resources that can be reused again and again. But non-renewable resources are those resources which cannot be used again and again. And once they are over, we are going to be die out eventually. There will be no life left for us because we can't live without these resources. So these resources, renewable resources, can be used again and again. And for example, they are sunlight or wind energy, because sun is never going to die out. So we can use sunlight again and again. We can also use wind energy because there is always wind available to us. But non-renewable resources like petroleum, we cannot use petroleum once it is over. And petroleum takes millions of years to generate again. And by that time, if we will give millions of years to this petroleum to form again, there will be no human life left on this planet. That is why we do not take care of these things and continuously use these resources for our own personal use. Moving on, what do you mean by environmental crisis in more extensive and more understanding way? Do you know that the vehicles that we use to drive, the big cars, the big trucks, these actually gives out a lot of various harmful gases. These harmful gases and fuels then go back into the air, and this is the air that we breathe. So the air that we are breathing is polluted, is destroyed, is harmful for our own health system. So we do not understand this point, but if we are reducing the quality of earth, we are also reducing our quality of our health. But we want our luxury. We do not like to travel in buses or public places or public vehicles. We generally do not like to walk. We do not like to bicycle. Have you heard that your grandparents and parents once used bicycles to travel long distances? But The life was better and much easier then. The quality of air was also good. But today, we see vehicles on every other house. We see big cars in every other house, and these cars that you can see is actually releasing out big amount of gases which are harmful for us to breathe, which is also harmful for plants. Because when we reduce the quality of agriculture and when we reduce the quality of land, we remove these plants from these land. But do you know that these plants actually inhale carbon dioxide? And when they inhale carbon dioxide, they give out oxygen. And when we give out oxygen, we take in that oxygen. But if that oxygen is gone completely out because we are reducing the plant life, we won't have any human life left. But we do not understand this crisis, because if we reduce the quality of plant life, we won't have our future generations to live on oxygen, because oxygen, without the oxygen, we cannot survive. So, environmental crisis reduces the quality of soil, reduces the quality of plants, reduces the quality of air, also increases global warming, and this generally decreases the quality of human beings. But we human beings are continuously using these resources because we are selfish and we want our luxury at all times. We do not understand that this will not leave anything for our future generations. This can lead to really harmful effects for us. You should understand that you should always use public vehicles when there is a need, when you can do it, because large vehicles can actually give out gases which are not good for our own health, which is not good for the earth either. And if the earth keeps reducing the quality of its own, it will not be able to give us a good quality of life, and it will not be able to keep the hold of so many millions of peoples on this globe. So how about we move on to the past first and see how Earth was actually formed, or how Earth is one of the planet and came into being, or how Earth has life on it. So as you all know, human beings were first born 1 lakh years ago. Yes, it was 1 lakh years ago that the human beings were first born. And let's see how this Earth actually works. People such as scientists and astrologers, mathematicians, and all those historians thought that the earth never moves. Earth never revolves. Do you understand what revolving means? It is like moving in this direction. So, people and scientists thought that the earth never moves. So they thought that the earth is located and is situated at one place, and it is not, and it is never moving. Even though there is one of the biggest historian you should all know about. His name is Ptolemy. So Ptolemy gave a theory, or you could say he proposed or made a story. His story was known as geocentric theory. So what do you understand by geocentric theory? Geocentric theory, he says that this is sun and this is earth. So sun is here and earth is here, but the earth is not moving. Earth always stays here. It has stayed here only in the past, it will stay here in the future, and it will always stay here in the present also. And this is the sun. So Ptolemy was also a mathematician, he was an astrologer, he was an historian, and he was the astronomer. And he gave this story to all the people right there in the past, that the sun is here, earth is here, and the earth is not moving. Earth always remains in a same position. So a lot of people and a lot of scientists believed that theory, and they believed that the sun is always there and the earth is never moving. So believed it. But it was only around 500 years ago that the people and the scientists started getting educated, and they started showing a lot of interest on this theory and on this thing, that whether the earth actually stays in a place or is it moving. So a lot of eagerness. You know what eagerness is? Eagerness is something you want to learn about. People started questioning people. People started to questioning and asking other people around that what if the earth never stays in a position, and what if earth actually moves? So this gave this sudden urge and sudden eagerness in the people to learn more about Earth. So that is why scientists and people got educated and they started learning more about Earth. So that is how they came up with this theory that the Earth is not on a place, but it is always moving. So when they learned about using a lot of maths, a lot of astronomy, a lot many stories, and they started learning about that what if the earth is not in a position. So when they actually came and found the solution, they told that the earth never stays in one position. It is not it is not in the middle of a solar system, but it is always moving. So this is how the scientists came up with this theory. And one of the most important astrologer of that time and that story was Copernicus. So Copernicus was a man who told that the earth is always revolving and moving around the sun. And this theory came to be known as heliocentric theory, which means that this is our sun and this is our earth. See, if this is our earth, it is revolving around. It is always moving. You know what Ptolemy said? That the earth always stay here and the sun always stay here. But Copernicus later, around 500 years ago only, gave that this earth is always revolving. So not only Ptolemy gave this theory, but there have been lot of Indian textbooks like Bhagavad Puran, Vedanga Jyotisha. These are some of the books which help us understand that the earth never moved. These also said the same thing that the Ptolemy said. They also wrote in their books that earth is not moving. Earth always stays in a position. But it was later when people started questioning people, when people started understand more about it, when people started learning about it, and when they came to this understanding that the earth is not stationary. Earth does not remain in a place, but it is always moving. You see in this picture right here that the earth is revolving around the sun. This picture shows that the earth is moving in a direction and the sun is in the middle of it, and the earth is constantly and keep on moving around the sun. So you should understand that the theory of Ptolemy was wrong. This theory of Ptolemy was so wrong that he always understood that the earth always remains in a place. But no, while he was learning this story, the earth was also moving at that time. So how does it feel when Ptolemy told other people that the earth is not moving, but it was actually moving, right? So earth has been always moving in the past, earth moves right now, and earth will always be moving around sun in the future. So once they got to know about that the earth is always moving, they understood that they should learn more about the solar system, because what if all the theories that they were earlier heard of are actually wrong? So they started showing more attention to it, and they had eagerness more, and they started learning about it again and again. So not only about earth, they also learned about stars. So do you know that the stars are actually born and they grow old and then they die? Yes, stars also, they understood, scientists also learned about it, and they told that the stars are actually born. They grow old and then they die. So just like human beings, right? So how human beings are born, then we grow old and then we die. So eventually stars do the same. We see the stars in the sky, so we think that the stars remain there always. But no, stars do die. But we think that it is a process of 1 day or 10 days or year or 2 years or maybe 10 years. But no, these process and these dying and giving birth and growing old, and the stars that we see in the sky, they are around million years old. And these process of the death of the stars are actually million years old. So this whole processes take around million of years to take place, and we think that it happens in just matter of time, or we think that it happens so fast, but no, it does take a lot of time, and it takes millions of years that we do not even imagine about. So they also understood, scientists, when they learned about stars, they also understood that the group of stars together is known as a galaxy. So you understand what is galaxy? Galaxy is a large group of stars. So what is large group of stars? It is not 5 stars, it is not 10 stars. It is hundreds and millions of stars together that forms the galaxy. So it looks so pleasing, it looks so easy, and it looks just less in number, but it is actually not true. Stars are actually millions in group, and that is why they're together known to be as a galaxy. So not just that, when they learned about Earth, when they learned about stars, they also learned about other planets in the solar system. Can you name some planets? Yes, the planets are Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter. There are a lot of. So please go home and learn about all the stars that are, all the planets that you know about, and read about them. So all these planets, do you know, that you know about are also been into the limelight of these scientists. So these scientists also learn about the other stars and the other planets, and they understand by studying these planets, they also try to understand that whether a life is possible on one of these planets, just like the Earth is able to give birth and able to give life to all these living beings. Can planets like Mars, or let's say Jupiter or Venus, can give life to these human beings and other living organisms? Do they have oxygen over there? So go home and read about whether there is oxygen available on any other planet or not. So you will have to learn about, is there oxygen available? There is oxygen available on Earth, but you will have to understand and find out whether there is oxygen available or on any other planet. Second point, try to find out that whether there is water available on any other planet. Try to find out that there is water and oxygen on any other planet other than Earth. So, scientists have been taking millions of years and hundreds of years to study about the age of these solar system planets, and they take a lot of years to understand whether it can support life just like Earth. So, people have been gone to moon to see if there is life available. So we know that there are a lot of Indians and there are a lot of astronauts who go to moon to understand the process, and they try to understand whether there is a life available. So first, let's understand more about Earth. So I told you earlier that this is the sun, for example. This is the Earth, for example. And if the Earth is moving,